Story 1: The Truck Stop Incident. Last year, my girlfriend and I decided to take a road trip. Instead of flying to our vacation spot, it seemed like the perfect opportunity to explore small towns and hidden gems along the way. And if I'm being honest, it was also more budget-friendly. We had taken one other road trip together, which turned out to be an unforgettable adventure. So naturally, we were excited about setting out on another journey. Our suitcases packed and the road calling our names. Our trip started with smooth sailing, cruising down highways, and stopping at quaint places we'd never been before. We even visited a little roadside diner, where we enjoyed breakfast among the locals, who shared stories about their town. That first day was perfect, filled with laughter, scenic views, and random discoveries. By the time we reached our first overnight stop, we were both ready to crash, already looking forward to the next day's journey. The following morning we woke up at the crack of dawn, eager to reach our final destination. By nightfall, the day flew by, filled with hours of driving, playlists, and roadside pit stops. As evening fell, we still had another hour and a half to go. It was around 10 p.m., and I could tell we were both starting to feel a little drained. My girlfriend suggested we stop for gas and grab some coffee to push us through the final stretch, and I agreed. We pulled off the highway at a truck stop, one of those large, brightly lit places with a gas station and a convenience store. It seemed popular, with several trucks and cars parked around. After refueling the car, we parked and headed toward the store for coffee and snacks. There were families, truck drivers, and other road trippers like us scattered around, making it feel lively, unsafe. Once inside, we split up. My girlfriend went to get the coffee, and I wandered through the aisles in search of snacks. It was while I was browsing that I noticed something odd. A man probably in his 40s and a young boy around 5 or 6 had entered my aisle. The man looked a bit rough around the edges and was holding the boy's hand in a firm grip. I could have sworn that the boy had entered the store with another family, a detail that lodged itself in my mind because something didn't seem right. As the man spotted me, he turned and led the boy back out of the aisle. A creeping feeling settled over me. The way the man was holding the boy's hand, it felt forced. The boy's demeanor seemed off, like he was scared. I felt the need to follow them just to be sure. I watched them as they moved towards the store's exit, and a sense of urgency stirred within me. If this guy was up to something, it felt like it was now or never. I hurried to the door and reached it just as they were about to leave. Blocking his path, I asked the man if the child was his. His face turned pale and he quickly stammered out a yes. But when I looked down and asked the boy if this was his dad, the child shook his head, saying, "No." In a flash, the man tried to push past me, pulling the boy along. I raised my voice, attracting attention, which made the man release the boy and flee. He bolted out of the store, heading for an old van parked outside. I tried to catch his license plate number, but he sped off before I could make it out. Thankfully, I was able to reunite the child with his family, who were beyond grateful, though shaken. They had other kids, and understandably, had assumed everyone was together. The police were called, and I gave them all the information I could. As I walked back to the car, my girlfriend hugged me, grateful that I'd trusted my instincts. We got back on the road, both quieter than before. That night I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been at the right place, at the right time. I'd never been so glad to trust my gut. Story to the mystery car on the deserted road. A couple of years back, I embarked on a solo road trip from my hometown to California. One of my good friends had recently moved out there, and I'd always wanted to visit. With a couple of days off work, I decided to turn it into a mini adventure. I planned to drive as far as I could on the first day, then stop overnight and finish the journey the next day. My first day on the road was as perfect as I'd hoped. I had an endless playlist, good weather, and a few scenic spots where I stopped to stretch my legs. By the time night fell, I was tired, but determined to make it to my pre-booked hotel. As I approached my final exit for the night, I checked my phone's GPS for the exact location, only to watch it flicker and die in my hands. The charger I'd brought was unreliable, and tonight of all nights, it decided not to work. With only a vague idea of where I was going, I took the exit and hoped I'd find a familiar landmark. As I drove down the dark, deserted road, a chill settled over me. There were no other cars, no streetlights, just me, my car, and the open road. After a few miles, I began to think I'd taken the wrong turn. I pulled over to fiddle with the charger, praying it would work just this once. When I looked up, I saw headlights pulling over behind me. The car parked several lengths back, and I felt a pang of unease. It didn't look like a police car. But why would anyone stop here? The seconds dragged on, as I waited to see what the driver would do. But no one got out, and that's when I knew I had to leave. As I pulled back onto the road, I noticed the car behind me doing the same. Anxiety washed over me as I sped up, only to realize that my follower matched my pace. This wasn't normal, hoping to lose them. I made a sharp turn down a side road. To my horror, the car followed every turn. Every twist in the road, they were there. My heart raced as I realized I was getting deeper into an unfamiliar, deserted area with no signs of help. Finally, I saw an open space and took a chance, veering off the road and into a field. The other cars stopped, but I managed to squeeze past and escape back onto the main road. I didn't stop driving until I reached a gas station. An hour later. Even now, I have no idea what they wanted. But I'll never forget the fear that gripped me that night. Story 3. The Stranger at the Rest Stop. It was around midnight, and I was driving home from visiting my family a few states over. Normally I would have stopped and rested at a hotel for the night, but I had an early meeting the next day and wanted to make it back in time. The highway stretched endlessly, dark and empty, save for the occasional 18-wheeler zooming past me. To keep myself awake, I played some loud music, sipped coffee from a thermos, and rolled down my windows for fresh air. But after hours on the road, I felt exhaustion starting to pull at me. Just as I was debating whether to push through or pull over, I spotted a rest area up ahead. It was one of those small, secluded stops with nothing but a few parking spots, a vending machine, and a restroom building set back in a shadowy corner. Though it wasn't particularly inviting, the quiet stretch of the highway left me with no choice. I pulled in, parked under the dim, flickering light, and turned off my engine. The silence that followed was nearly unsettling. After hours of roaring highway noise, I got out, stretched my legs, and made my way to the restroom building. The cold night air bit through my jacket, and I noticed how eerily still everything was. The rest stop was deserted. No cars, no sounds. Just the hum of a vending machine in the distance. After using the restroom, I returned to my car, ready to power through the rest of my drive. But as I approached the vehicle, something caught my eye under the single flickering light across the parking lot. I saw someone standing watching me. The figure was tall and unmoving, dressed in what appeared to be dark clothes, their face obscured by shadows. My immediate thought was that this person might be another traveler, perhaps stopping for a break, just like me. But there was something about the way they stood, perfectly still, just watching, that sent chills down my spine. I quickly got into my car, locking the doors for a moment. I just sat there staring back at the figure. They didn't move, didn't call out, didn't acknowledge me in any way, other than standing there completely silent. Trying to shake off the eerie feeling, I decided to leave immediately. I started my engine, took one last glance back at the figure, and then they moved. In one slow, deliberate motion, they took a step closer to my car, then another and another. Panic surged through me as I shifted into reverse and backed out of the parking spot as fast as I could. The figure continued moving toward me, their pace eerily calm but relentless. I pulled onto the highway, my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel, heart pounding. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I half expected to see the stranger standing at the edge of the road, watching me drive away. But there was no one there. The rest stop had fallen back into darkness, with only my taillights illuminating the empty highway. As I continued down the road, I tried to rationalize what had happened. Maybe they were just another driver, stretching their legs. Maybe they were just as surprised to see me as I was to see them. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. The way they'd watched me, the deliberate steps they took toward my car, it felt almost predatory, like they were waiting for me to make the wrong move. When I finally got home and crawled into bed, sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that dark figure under the flickering light, standing in the shadows, watching, waiting. To this day, I don't stop at rest areas alone at night.